Hello everybody and welcome to Car Confections. Now sitting behind us is the all-new 2024 Buick Envista. And today we're going to be doing a real-world fuel economy test to see how this Buick Envista stacks up against those EPA numbers. So let's go ahead and get into it.
So like Mason was saying, this is the all-new 2024 Buick Envista. Of course, this is a small crossover in their lineup. It's also a very affordable crossover. Even this ST trim level is $29,000. Now, of course, this video is focused on fuel economy. So in terms of our EPA estimate for the fuel economy of this model, it's pretty efficient because this is a turbo 3-cylinder engine, and we're looking at 28 on the city, 32 highway, and 30 combined. This is a front-wheel drive only model. Now, of course, this is a real-world fuel economy test. So what we're going to do today is take this out on a circuit where we go through all the conditions that you'll see. So we're going to go on the highway, we're going to go on the interstate, we're going to do city driving, and we're even going to do stop and go driving so that we can test things out like the auto start stop system. At the end of that, we're going to see how much the real-world fuel economy compares to this EPA estimate. But without further ado, let's go ahead and fill it up so we can start the test.
So like Drew said, we are going to be filling this vehicle up to full tank capacity. And the reason we're doing that is so we can calculate how much fuel we use on our circuit. Now, as opposed to just relying solely on the vehicle's estimates, those are some readings. Sometimes they can vary a little bit. We do want to get our own estimates and fill up afterwards so we know exactly how much fuel we used on our test. So let's go ahead and fill it up. Of course, you do have a nice popless system here, and it also doesn't even have a cap. You just stick it in. It's a capless fuel setup. So let's go ahead and fill it up.
All right, so we are out on the road beginning our first section of this real-world fuel economy test. This is going to be structured pretty similar to our real-world range test, if you've seen that, regarding our electric vehicles, because we're going on a simulated real-world experience. Basically 4 sections, as I mentioned earlier. This one here is the first section. This is going to be city driving. There's going to be some red lights and some decent speed at different times. In terms of our rules, of course, to keep things consistent and scientific, we are going to be going the speed limit. We're going to be keeping up with the flow of traffic. In terms of the climate control, it's going to be set to 72 degrees. No heated seats or anything like that are going to be on.
I'm also reminded of another rule that we have for all of our fuel economy tests is that the auto start stop systems, if equipped, will be left on. So as you can see right there, we were stopped at a red light. The auto start stop system kicked in. I know a lot of you guys may not like the auto start stop systems, but we do want to give you an accurate reading if the vehicle is equipped with that system.
We're also going to be using the normal drive mode. So as we go through these different sections, we're going to kind of keep you guys up to date. So you'll see right here on the screen, we have a fuel economy live reading that the car is calculating. So as we get to these different checkpoints, we'll check and see what the car is telling us. And then at the end, like Mason said, we will manually calculate our own reading based on the amount of fuel that goes back into the vehicle at the end of the test. All right, so we're reaching the conclusion of our city drive, and we're getting ready to pull on to the interstate for that section. So this is a great time for us to kind of take a look at our information and see where we're setting so far. So I'm going to click right into there, and the car right now is telling us that we have been getting 31.3 MPG in the city. We've gone 12.2 miles. And as you can tell with our EPA rating, we were discussing that earlier, but our city rating is 28 miles per gallon. So thus far we have tracked above that, at least according to the car, before we do our own manual calculation at the end.
Yeah. And I'll have you go ahead and take a picture of that for our documentation. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reset trip 1 so we can get our official numbers for the interstate portion, and trip 2 will be our whole trip. All right, so now we are merging onto the interstate. Of course, just to remind you all, we will be obeying the speed limit, so we'll be going 70 miles per hour for this portion. And once again, this is going to be about a 10-mile leg. So this is good enough to give you a sample size of what you could expect fuel economy wise on the interstate going 70 miles per hour. Of course, trip 1 is reset, so we can get you that number, at least according to Buick, on the fuel economy. And then, of course, trip 2 is our official number that we will actually compare when we go and fill up with gas at the end. Let me go ahead and set the cruise control at 70.
If you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
All right, and we are getting off of the interstate, so we have some more data to share with you guys about how this Buick Envista is performing on the interstate. So as you can see, trip 1 is representative of our interstate leg. Specifically, we went about 11.3 miles, and we averaged 37.1 miles per gallon, which is really impressive fuel economy, guys, especially for an SUV. I honestly had no doubt that a 3-cylinder would do good on the highway, but I didn't know it would do quite that good. So I'm very impressed by that figure right there.
Yeah, exactly. And just to remind again, 32 is what the EPA was rating the highway. So far, at least according to Buick, we are outperforming that. And, you know, speaking of the engine, you know, it does go without saying that when it comes to engines, having a smaller engine doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have better fuel economy, because sometimes you see that the engine is very strained. So that really is kind of a key point about this video, is trying to test that out, because this is one of the very smallest engines, maybe the smallest engine actually that we have ever sampled. 1.2 liter, 3-cylinder. So I mean, it doesn't get any smaller than that. And as we enter the highway here, I'll remind you this is the highway section. So section 3 is going to be at 55 miles per hour. That's kind of your middle ground between city driving and that full interstate driving at 70 miles per hour.
And there are no red lights, so this is kind of that traditional highway that you may be accustomed to. That is part of our real world fuel economy sample, is we want to provide you all those different road conditions as a sample of what you might be doing on the daily, because we know that some of the EPA testing may not be exactly what you guys would be doing on the day-to-day. So let's speed up here to 55 miles an hour and start this leg of our drive in the Buick Envista.
All right, so we are wrapping up our highway section at 55 miles per hour. We're getting ready to get into the next section, which is kind of a stop and go area of our test. But first, let's go ahead and analyze what type of details we're getting here. So wrapping up this section, we've been 10.8 miles. And the Buick is telling us we're getting 40.6 miles
Yeah, we
per
broke
gallon.
the 440 fuel
I'm surprised
economy.
by that.
Yeah, so honestly, that was our best fuel economy so far, was actually on the highway going 55 miles per hour. So that would be the most efficient way to drive, at least according to the Buick. We're going to go ahead and reset that as we're heading into the stop and go portion. But of course, that is going to be reflected in our total trip. We've gone 35.5 miles and are averaging 35.7 miles per gallon, which is a very impressive fuel economy figure. But like Drew mentioned, we are in the stop and go portion. This is our fourth and final leg of our drive, and this is simulating heavy traffic. So lots of lanes of traffic, lots of red lights, lots of people around. So this, I would assume, would be the worst fuel economy of the bunch, but I'm very interested to see how the auto start stop system will affect our average fuel economy for this portion. As you can see, it went ahead and activated. And if you're curious about the auto start stop system and how it performs, I will say this is a pretty good auto start stop system. It's relatively smooth. You may notice it a little bit, but overall, I think it's pretty solid.
Right, and in terms of how the climate acts with that, it dies the fan down just a little bit, but not too bad. It keeps the cabin maintained at a pretty good temperature. It doesn't tend to turn off and then back on really quickly, which is something that a few rival vehicles we've noticed do, where they'll just turn off and they'll be back on in 5 seconds. Just really kind of annoying characteristic. This one seems to avoid that stuff, but as with most models, you do have a defeat button if auto start stop is something that you're very much against.
All right, guys, so we've concluded our 4-section loop of city driving, highway driving, interstate driving, and stop and go, and we're going to get you those final fuel economy numbers. Now, we'll talk about the final Buick estimated numbers, but we want to go ahead and get the official numbers from fill up to fill up, because this is the most accurate way of doing it. So I went ahead and put our credit card information in, and I'm going to go ahead and get some more gas and see how much more gas this takes from full to full. All right, drum roll please for our final fuel economy numbers for the all-new Buick Envista. Now, we're pretty impressed by this, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Buick numbers first, and then we'll get our official numbers. So as far as the Buick official numbers, our stop and go traffic section was about 3.6 miles. We averaged 28.4 miles per gallon. Makes sense, that's the worst fuel economy of the bunch. As far as our overall trip, 39 miles, and we averaged 34.9 MPG. Now, of course, that significantly beats out the EPA's numbers, which was 32-30 combined. So we're sitting at about 35 miles per gallon, so about 5 MPG better according to Buick. Now, as far as our official numbers, let's take a look at this, guys. So we are sitting at, from the beginning of our trip to the end, we used 1.16 gallons of gas. So that was only $3.48. So a pretty quick and easy and cheap trip. But let's go ahead and calculate how much that equates to fuel economy wise. I'm thinking the Buick's number is pretty on point. So we went 39 miles and we used 1.16 gallons of gas, which means that we averaged scientifically, based on the gas pump, not even basing it on Buick's fuel economy figures, 33.62 miles per gallon on our real world 40-mile test. So certainly the Buick Envista is outperforming what the EPA is giving, which I'm certainly very happy to see out of this 1.2 liter 3-cylinder. And guys, that's where we're going to leave off on this real-world fuel economy test of the all-new Buick Envista. If you enjoyed watching this fuel economy test, you may also enjoy watching our other content on the Buick Envista, such as a night review, as well as our full in-depth 7-day impressions of this vehicle. You can find that on the channel right now, so go ahead and check those videos out. Additionally, if you like any type of car content, comparisons, review videos, news, auto show coverage, I'm sure you will enjoy being a part of our Car Confections family. So hit that subscribe button down below. We want to welcome you in. And if you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.